Hello everyone, and welcome back to Attorney Reacts, where your favorite attorneys react to all the stupid that is present in our world. For today's episode of Attorneys React, we look at a roadside stop in which a guy declines to give information to the police, and we comment on his ability to do so in a way that assists his cause. So let's take a look at this video and see what the tape has to reveal to us.
Howdy.
All right, so right away we see this is a standard roadside stop. The guy appears to have his own dash camera. He's got his seatbelt on, he keeps it on. He sees the officer coming up to the passenger side. He rolls down the window part of the way and says hello. So far so good.
Down all the way, man.
Why is that?
Roll it down all the way so I can talk to you better.
We can talk, right? I mean,
roll it down all the way. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
what law is that?
Why are you starting this, man?
Well, you're telling me to roll my window. We can talk, right?
Yeah, roll it down more.
But why?
So I can talk to you better, man. I'm not going to talk to you through a crack like this.
We can talk.
I'm not trying to be rude to you, anything like that.
I'm really not trying to be rude to you either, but...
So what's the deal? Why don't you want to roll it down all the way?
Because I don't have to.
You want to? You just trying to be difficult?
I'm not trying to be difficult. Do you want my license registration?
Yeah, if you don't care.
All right, friends, I don't think we're off to an optimal start in this interaction. This individual has rolled down his window part of the way, but not all the way. And the officer makes the request, which he then phrases as a demand to roll down his window the rest of the way. It is true that he doesn't have to roll down his window all the way, but by the same token, he doesn't really gain anything by refusing to roll down his window. The officer can see into the car. If there were smells, the officer could smell them. There's no reason legally to not roll down your window all the way. I don't really see the point in declining this request. And it does start it off on a bit of an antagonistic streak, which seems unideal. So I wouldn't recommend doing this. I just recommend rolling down the window all the way because there's really no reason not to.
What's the reason for stopping me?
First off, okay, I'm Trooper Jackson Little with the Arkansas State Police, okay?
I appreciate that.
The reason I'm pulling you over is speeding. You know how fast you're going?
I do.
How fast are you going?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, I got you going 87 in the 65, man. That's a little quick.
I got this dash cam here.
Yeah.
And it records my speed.
Okay, how fast does it say you're going?
I'm not going to answer that question, but okay. I know it was.
All right, this is better. I like him not answering the questions, being very polite about just simply saying, I'm not going to answer the question, not being unduly antagonistic in that. I like the more casual phrasing. If we were doing a interrogation in a police office after being given Miranda, I'd want you to say, I want to remain silent. I want a lawyer. I'd want that more formal phrasing. But for a roadside stop, which is more informal for the police's side, I think the more informal response here makes sense. So there's a lot of different responses you could give. I don't want to answer the question works perfectly fine, or I don't want to talk about my day is a good phrasing, or I'd prefer not to answer that question. Any of these sort of phrasings is fine. Only thing I'd recommend is throwing in a sir or ma'am as may be appropriate, because it's always good to show respect because there's some positional authority there. And, you know, it will help give you a little bit of additional credence with the officer when you're showing them a little respect. So I think it's great that he's not confessing. Not ideal here. He points out that he has his own dash cam. There's no reason to do that, because if the dash cam shows that he wasn't speeding, then he can always present that evidence at trial. But if the dash cam evidence does show that it was speeding, it would be further evidence to validate the officer's point of view, and it could be subpoenaed by the government as part of their investigation if they wanted to. So I don't think there was any particular need to bring it to the officer's attention, but otherwise good. Offers his license registration, politely declines to answering questions which incriminate him. So far, going pretty well.
This is okay. Registration, insurance. I'm not going to answer that.
Okay.
Good.
I'm really not trying to be difficult with you, sir.
So what's the deal then?
Well, what deal?
Why are you just being so defensive and argumentative?
With what?
Everything I'm saying.
Well, I don't believe...
I'm not being cooperative by rolling the window down. It's not a huge deal. I'd like to talk to you better, you know.
I think that we're talking fine, though, aren't we?
We were, but
it's not. Well, hold on. Let's start over.
We're not going to argue.
I don't want to argue with you, but let's start over.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
My name's James. You have my ID here.
Man.
And I just don't... The reason for the window, I'm not trying to be defensive or argumentative or anything.
Yeah.
I just don't like to have it all the way down.
Why is that?
I just don't.
Why is that, man?
I just don't.
Okay.
Okay, that works perfectly fine. I just don't like to, and then he doesn't justify it. It gives the officer nowhere to go, right? It's like, I don't want to just because I don't like it. Why don't you like it? Just because I don't. That works as a response. I wouldn't recommend necessarily having this additional dialogue. Simply, I don't want to talk about my day. Am I free to go? I'd like to be on my way. I'd prefer not to answer any questions. Things like that would be better than having this sort of exchange, because by having the exchange and having the dialogue, it might lure you into a sense of friendship. It might lure you into a sense of wanting to cooperate, and you might say things. The more things you say, the more opportunity is there for you to say something that will incriminate yourself. He hasn't incriminated himself, obviously, in what he said, but by engaging in dialogue beyond sort of basics, that is a bit problematic. But I do like that he's not being unduly antagonistic, unduly disrespectful. That is not going to win friends and influence people. Throwing in an occasional yes, sir, or no, sir would be nice to show that respect. But otherwise, standing on his rights, observing his right to remain silent, good job.
Okay. Everyone's different, I guess.
Everyone is a little different, yeah. You like it down, I don't, you know.
Okay. Everything looks good here. So you don't think you were speeding?
I don't want to answer any questions regarding
Good job.
That. Why not?
Just say I don't want to talk about my day.
I get it, and
yeah, speeding isn't a big deal in the grand scheme. You're looking at some fines, you're looking at some points on your license, might cause your insurance to go slightly up, but you know, in the grand scheme of our world, not a huge deal. But that being said, why incriminate yourself on something small if you don't have to, right? The fact that it's small doesn't mean that your rights are any less valuable. So sure, is it a big deal? Not particularly, but why incriminate yourself? So he's absolutely right to say, I don't want to answer questions, and you know, I don't want to talk about my day. I'd prefer to go, things like that. Good job on standing on your rights.
I don't think it's a huge deal to not.
You know, if you don't think you're going that fast, something could be wrong with your car or something, man. You know, you never know that.
2021.
Rude, nothing like that, man.
I'm not trying to be rude either.
I know you're being nice now, so I appreciate that.
Well, I feel like I've been nice.
Yeah, it's the deal is, man. We go, you know, if you give us signs by not being cooperative by the little things.
We're not cooperating?
Just listen. Let me talk, okay?
Sure.
Okay. Those little things can mean a lot sometimes, man. For all you know, you could be trying to hide something, anything like that. So those are just little clues. I'm not saying you are. Not accusing you of anything.
Well, we're just operating within the bounds of the law right now, aren't we?
What do you say?
Are we just operating within the bounds of the law right now?
We are.
Then.
But those are just little clues, man. I mean, it's kind of weird when you don't want to roll your window down on the way. It's just a little weird, man.
It's a little.
I don't know whether or not the officer knows it or not, but he's actually in the legal right in this perspective. There is case law that definitely stands for the proposition that even if the things that you're doing are legal, they can, in collection, add up to something that would form the basis of reasonable suspicion. This has been the kind of thing that you've seen, for example, in drug traffic stops that ultimately reveal drugs. Persons like they had no reason to suspect me. And the courts will go through the analysis and they'll point out that there's a bunch of things that individually are legal, but might cause suspicion. So for example, having an out-of-state driver's license is a factor. Having an out-of-state plate is a factor. Driving particular roads that are known for drug trafficking are factors. Time of day is a factor. So the officer is pointing out something that's actually kind of true. Refusing to roll down your window may be legal, but that factor, if in addition to other things the officer could point to, could in combination, even if all those things are individually legal, they could in combination cause a court to say that together they raise some sort of suspicion. Now, I don't think that's necessarily fair, because if you're doing everything that's legal, even if you're doing a whole bunch of legal things at the time, how can a combination of legal things raise to some sort of suspicion? But I'm not here to tell you the way the law should be. I'm here to tell you the way the law is. By failing to put down his window all the way, although he may be legally in the right, I can see a court using that as a factor among other factors that if this officer were to take more aggressive action, the court may say that the stop or further action was proper. So the officer may or may not know that's true, but there is definitely case law in some jurisdictions that would allow for that kind of action to be taken. So just something to take note of here as you're going about your life.
A little weird that you're just demanding I do something. You said that you're not asking, you're telling me, and you don't have the legal grounds to tell me to roll my window all the way down. That's the only thing. That was a lie.
A lie?
Yeah.
That's not a lie.
Do I have to roll my window down?
I can make a bigger deal out of that. I'm not going to, though.
Do I have to roll my window down all the way? Is that a law?
Do what I asked, man.
Is that a law?
And if you think that's violating whatever, we can take it to court.
We can take that one to court. That is not a law that I have to have my window all
The officer's also right that even if it in and of itself wouldn't be illegal, he could take more aggressive action, right? He could ask the person to step out of the car, for example. The courts would uphold that. He could frisk the individual. The courts would uphold that. He could take more aggressive action here in potentially calling for reinforcement if a canine happens to be nearby, doing some sort of drug sweep of the car. So there's a lot of things here the officer may be legally allowed to do. So the officer has a point. Him not complying could allow this officer to take more aggressive action that would be within the bounds of the law. This is also incidentally why refusing to roll down the window is not ideal, because while it may not be legally required unto itself, you don't need to give the officer any sort of subjective reason to treat you with more aggression than might be warranted. You know, you don't want to make your life more difficult, even if it's legal. So, you know, why not do something that doesn't cost you anything? Because there's no reason to not roll down the window. There's no legal benefit, and it will make the officer slightly happier. So it will probably influence things for the best.
Like that. But like I said, it's speeding, man. It's not a huge deal.
And I understand that, and that's why I feel like we got off on the wrong foot.
I was just saying behind the whole cop thing, I was just kind of curious why you didn't want to like behind the whole I'm the cop, you're the violator, whatever. Behind, just kind of curious why you didn't want to roll it down. So
yeah, I just like it where it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
everyone's different.
Sure.
Anyway, man, just hang tight here, okay?
Sure.
All right, so far so good in this interaction. You know, that it's not ideal, not perfect. There are definitely things to learn, but on the whole, he's doing a fairly good job. He hasn't incriminated himself. He hasn't allowed the situation to become overly escalated. He hasn't been antagonistic. I would have preferred he'd been a little bit more respectful by a sir. A sir occasionally goes a long way. You know, a little bit of politeness and a little bit of professionalism goes a long way. No problem showing a little bit of respect. You know, you're inconvenienced, you don't like it, but you show them a little bit of respect. It goes a long way. All right, let's see how this wraps up.
Put your stuff back, man. Here's what we're doing, okay?
All right.
Your record looked pretty dang good. I didn't see a speeding warning or ticket on there, okay?
Okay.
On you off with the warning, okay?
I really
you don't think you're going that fast, but radar said you were, but I'm not writing you a ticket.
That's what I was going to ask, is if you're on radar, because I'm not lying to you. I wasn't going that fast.
How fast? Since we're beyond that, how fast was it?
I really can't answer that question.
Good job.
Well, I'm not writing you a ticket, man. It's a warning, so I'm just curious what it says.
I understand, but there's a formality that's got to take place there.
What do you mean formality?
My right to remain silent on things.
I'm not going to walk back there and rewrite a ticket, man. I can promise you that. I'm just curious.
Your promise means nothing, officer. Your promise means nothing. Don't let him fool you, right? If you confess now, he may choose not to write a ticket. He may choose to write a ticket, right? But yeah, it's like, I'm not going to go back and write a ticket. I can guarantee you. It's like, yeah, I was going 150 miles an hour. I'm glad you said that, right? It's like, I was going 160, man, or whatever the answer is, right? I mean, obviously there's a scenario where he'd take more aggressive action. So don't let him fool you into complacency.
I can promise I won't answer the question.
Good job.
I'm not going to do that. I promise you. That's on camera. That's on my camera.
Ooh, it's on camera.
I do.
Ooh, it's on camera. It says he's on video promising. That's definitely going to help you in your defense. Not.
But yeah, man, what's your name again?
My name's James.
Okay, nice to meet you, man. I'm Jackson.
Too.
Nice to meet you.
You too. What was your badge number?
587.
587. Is any of that going to be on the?
Oh, let's see. It should be. Yeah, name's right there. Badge number's right there. Okay.
Perfect, man.
But yeah, besides that, man, I know you don't think you're speeding. My radar said you were, but just be careful, okay?
Absolutely, and you too, for sure.
I appreciate it, man. Like I said, not every cop's bad, man. We're here to keep you safe.
I think the majority of police are good.
Keep you safe.
You know, the saying goes, "A few bad apples spoil the bunch." Yeah. And I think that's a bad case of what's happening.
I can understand why you'd be, a little defensive of a cop walking up to you and stuff. But,
sure.
But man, I'm not here to hurt you. I can promise you that.
I got you.
Came down.
And I'm not here to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
So.
I believe that, man. That's why I'm not making a big deal out of it. But
cool.
I'm just saying, sometimes the little things like that give us clues. I mean, you're not a bad guy, so that's not the case here. But
sure,
those little things, sometimes mean a lot.
Again, he's not wholly wrong here. There is case law in some jurisdictions that stands for this proposition, right? A bunch of little things can add up to something more. And then you get, well, in my training and experience, based on my knowledge, these factors together led me to this suspicion. And some courts will uphold that. So he's not wholly wrong. All right, my friends, this was a pretty good traffic interaction. Not perfect, but not bad either. He didn't incriminate himself, fortunately. He had some dialogue that went beyond mere invocation of his rights, which is not ideal because, of course, he get to get himself into a sense of complacency, and then he might start saying all kinds of things. It's one of the reasons that officers just like you to talk, because after a while, you have a tendency to say something that will be used against you. In this particular example, not so much. So that's good. Also, he could have been a little bit more respectful. A sir occasionally would have gone a long way, and not getting into the argument, because that would have potentially led to an escalation that could have caused problems. But on the whole, he invoked his rights. He invoked his right to remain silent, didn't incriminate himself, and was overall respectful, if not ideal. So I would give him a 7 out of 10. Good work. Some lessons to be learned. We can all learn to improve. And until later, my friends, I've been Uncivil Law for Attorney Reacts. I hope that you'll stay tuned to this channel as your favorite attorneys react to all the goings on in this crazy world of ours.
Big verdict.